me to do? One more time. Back better than ever.
Hell yeah.
I'm back better than ever.
They have a lot of respect for me. Everywhere I go, even the young drug dealers, when I'm out walking, they'll come up to me and say, Mr. Mayor, I'm glad you cleaned up this place, glad you cleaned up this area. As you stop selling dope, we can do it better.
Get on.
Well.
I need to talk to you. It's emergency.
Well, what's up, well?
Yes.
Well, me.
All of us. FBI.
Drug ring trial in Washington, 24-year-old Rayful Edmond convicted of running a $2 million a week cocaine crime outfit in the nation's capital. The one-time schoolyard basketball star faces a mandatory life sentence now. 10 co-defendants, including friends and relatives, were found guilty on related charges. Security surrounding the trial was unusually tight. Names of the jurors were kept secret even from the judge and lawyers to guard against possible reprisals.
Just about everybody inside the jail in some way, shape, form, or fashion is dealing in drugs, either directly or indirectly.
He was caught and 2 years ago struck a deal with the feds. Ever since, he's been telling them exactly how he pulled it off.
In some ways, he's like the Babe Ruth of crack dealers. My mother always wanted a nice big house, you know, so I wanted to be able to buy that for her one day. She always wanted a Mercedes. I wanted to be able to buy that for her.
This is your watch.
Yeah, it used to be my watch.
Used to be your watch.
Yeah,
The government now has his watch.
Yeah, the government owns it now.
How much did this watch cost?
Oh, close to $100,000.
Was this typical of what you would buy when you were...
Typical things that I would buy when I was home.
Well, you were fancy.
Yeah, I was real jazzy. Yeah, I like, you know, try to have a lot of class.
Sometimes we could do all the reporting in the world, give all the public facts, but the truth of the matter is only God knows. And this is one of those situations. Now, of course, that preview I just showed you guys was from the previous video that we did on Rayful Edmonds, a man who did 30 plus years to come home to now find himself deceased just 6 months later. But here's the thing, fam. A lot has changed and went on since he's been released. Remember, he released this viral clip.
Better than ever.
Hell yeah.
I'm back better than ever.
But here's the thing. We're talking about a man who got over 100 people arrested, which we covered in the previous video. So I won't waste time on this in this video, but if you haven't checked it out, I'll leave the link in the bio. But as mentioned, this man helped the feds make an arrest from the cartel to his close friends and even his mother. And as we always say, fam, revenge don't have no date on it, and it only take one person to want it. And sometimes your revenge is karma. Now, one of those people that Rayful Edmonds helped get a life sentence managed to come home from Washington, D.C. Now, this man's son, who was only 8 years old when his dad got arrested, got older and found out that Rayful Edmonds, who he looked at as an uncle, got his father life. We'll later hear from him, but we'll also hear from a man from D.C. who honestly feel what the mass majority of his peers feel upon his release. But most of all, we pay our respects and see what they putting out on how Rayful Edmonds III had lost his life. But before we go over this one, I want you guys to remember, I don't give you no angle, I just give you the story. So with that being said, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We'll go jump right to it. Fam, if you ask anybody from Washington, D.C. about Rayful Edmonds, 9 times out of 10, they'll have a story to tell you, whether it affected them, their family, or someone they knew personally. And that was no different when that question was brought up to DC natives / ex-drug dealers like heirs to Christ and many more. But nowadays, the answers are more like this.
Okay, and around that time, Rayful Edmond was the big drug kingpin in DC.
Yeah, Rayful the Rat.
Right, because then by 1989, he gets arrested.
That's right.
At the time, he was supplying 60% of the cocaine in DC and making $70 million a month.
That's the rumor.
And he ends up getting arrested, convicted. He gets life in prison, and his mother gets 14 years in prison.
Mm-hmm.
He continues to sell drugs in prison.
Yep.
Gets another 30 years. And then by 1996, he becomes an informant.
Yep. You know why he came in informant?
Because of his mother?
Nah, bullshit.
That was the story, that he became an informant because they would let his mother out.
Man, boy, his mother was running numbers way before he was hustling. Fuck out of here.
Okay.
Come up from the streets. Man, they took some shit from him. He was with the, what's that lady named? Blanco? Cowgirl?
Griselda Blanco? Yeah.
The 2 sons was in it in Lewisburg. Her 2 sons was in Lewisburg.
Mm-hmm.
And he started them, and he plugged one of our homies up with them. And I'm glad he didn't plug him. I know my little man used to be on this case, Lord Nut. So I'm glad I was fucking with Nut, not him. You know what I'm saying? So he plugged one of our homies up. Our homies took his shit. Gave him a little bit of money, was like, that's all we got. We took a loss. So they gave him some more. They took that. Then he started telling. So he told on all them niggas. He told on all them.
Right, because with his cooperation, the government arrested 11 drug dealers out of D.C.
Yeah.
You knew those guys? Some of them?
Yeah, I knew some of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
He ended up being put in the federal witness protection program in prison. So I guess they put him in a different prison, but nobody knows who he is.
Know who he is, that's right.
Exactly. And then in 2019, he tried to get his life sentence reduced because he gave them more information about 20 different homicides.
Yeah. I don't know that, but I know I seen something on the news where as though they said he told so good, the prosecutors was trying to get him out, saying they ain't gonna rebut nothing. That's how much good red he was. Snitch a rat motherfucker.
Rayful cooperated and gave information on 20 murders.
Right.
Did you know some of the people that he ratted on?
Yeah, I knew probably majority of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So all these guys that you knew were suddenly getting picked up and convicted off of what Rayful said.
Yeah, it was, like I say, man, Ray turned into something else, man. He turned into something that, I didn't recognize no more. I had respect for this man, and really looked up to him like a big brother. But once he turned into this other person, and you put a badge on, per se, you put a badge on and you working with the law.
And that interview was released February 24th, 2022. But a year later, a well-known ex-drug dealer named Tony Lewis will come home.
15th, 1989, more than 24 people were rounded up in D.C., accused of running a massive crack cocaine operation in the region, including Tony Lewis Sr., his last day as a free man, until now, 34 years later.
So you have the sentence of life without parole. I mean, that's pretty much...
It's a slow death sentence, actually. That's what life without parole in the federal system is. They don't want to use those terms, but it's a slow death.
Lewis Sr. was 26 at the time. His son, only 8.
My mother sat me down and was like, you need to write him. He needs you, all right? He needs you now.
Their bond unbreakable, despite the barriers, with constant communication. Lewis Sr. was worried about his son's safety, navigating life in D.C. during the seemingly inescapable crack crisis, poverty, and also when his former partner, drug kingpin Rayful Edmond III, became a federal informant.
I broke the law. I understand that, and I should have went to prison, but just not for the rest of my life for a non-violent drug offense.
But the reason he had life, the vast majority of it, was because of the testimony from his ex-best friend, Rayful Edmonds. And in April of 2023, he did his first interview on Vlad TV. He was asked about the day his son came to visit him at just 16 years old, now getting older, about the rumors that the man he looked up to as his uncle has been an informant against his dad.
Well, after Rayful cooperated, your son went to go see you. And I guess he was around 16 years old at the time. And you guys actually talked about the whole Rayful cooperating situation.
Right.
And I guess that was only the second time he actually got to go see you. So how was that meeting like?
He had questions, as a 16-year-old. Rayful was somebody that he, really, looked at as, as a family member, you know what I'm saying? And it really affected him what he did and what the reverberations from it and the effect that had on him. A whole lot of people in our area. So, and he had questions about how he wanted to proceed, concerning that. And, as a father, you got to deal with that and try to enlighten your child, protect your child, and that's what our conversation was, just somewhat about that. It wasn't no long conversation on that. We had a lot of other things to talk about, but we discussed that. We discussed, Rayful, and and we had to deal with Dad's situation and his situation. growing up without his dad and growing up on the same block that I lived on. It just so many, other situations that that a young teenage boy deals with growing up. So not just, and then with him being Tony Lewis Jr., same name, same everything. So yeah, we discussed that shit briefly, and man, just got some pointers, and he got some knowledge on it, and yeah. And then I learned some things that I didn't know about, like these phone call shit, and how Rayful calling way more than I knew, and just different little things. Yeah. So yeah, we talked about that.
Now shout out to Vlad TV for those clips. He have the full interviews with those guys if you guys want to check it out. Now those interviews was released a year or two before Rayful Edmond's released. And at that point, people thought Rayful Edmond could possibly be home, but under a new identity, especially because of his history. But it turns out it wasn't. And some people thought the feds was playing a dirty game. Because on July 31st, 2024, after 35 years in the feds, a man who was in a halfway house with Rayful in DC had just landed from prison. Now it seemed he really didn't want to be in the video, but asked to take a video with the DC legend, seeing that he's really been identified.
Better than ever. Yeah. I'm back better than ever.
But that video wasn't received well, so the feds decided to take Rayful Edmonds to a halfway house in Tennessee.
Welcome back. DC's drug kingpin is one step closer to freedom. The Bureau of Prisons confirms that Rayful Edmond III is now either in a halfway house or confined to his home. It's hard to fully explain how many lives were cut short or changed forever by the way Edmond ran his drug ring. 5 years ago, my dear colleague and friend, the late Bruce Johnson, anchored a half-hour special on Edmond. I wanted to share just a part of that with you tonight.
Wherever there was a corner, you could buy crack.
Keeping it real, we were overwhelmed. When the crack epidemic hit, the DC Police Department wasn't ready for it.
When crack was the hustle here in the nation's capital back in the 1980s, nobody, absolutely nobody, worked harder than Rayful Edmond III. In court, prosecutors said Edmond's enterprise brought in several hundred kilos of cocaine per month. It's believed that at its peak, his crack empire was allegedly taking in as much as $300 million per year.
It was hell for a minute.
Here, there was nonstop drug dealing, slingers on the street 24/7, and you had violence that would break out as young men and teenagers fought for turf.
24-year-old Rayful Edmond reportedly controlled as much as 60% of the crack market in D.C. He reportedly had more than 150 people on the payroll at one point. Rayful was never accused of murder, but no fewer than 30 slayings were blamed on his associates. The wars over crack territories helped send the district's homicide rate through the roof, 400 per year, earning the city the dubious title of murder capital of the world.
That was Bruce.
But then suddenly, December 17, 2024, just a week before Christmas, the FBOP confirms that Rayful Edmond had passed away from an apparent heart attack at the halfway house, I'm assuming. A family member had commented under a post and quoted he was working out and had a heart attack while working out. May he rest in peace and love condolences to his family. It's hard to confirm this nowadays. With so many enemies and even the police, you never know if this truly how he lost his life. Fam, it's time for you guys to let me know how you guys feel about this one in the comments. This was the story of an ex-drug dealer who at one point in time controlled 30% of the drug market in the DC area, who managed to come home to only lose his life 6 months later in the halfway house. Let me know how you guys feel about this one in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until then, I'll catch you guys on the next one.